Okay, guys, we're going to split up the section on modern Asia into two lessons. So I'm going to cover about half of it today, and then you'll do the other half tomorrow. So jumping right into present day South Asia, we'll see what's going on there today. So it's largely an agricultural economy. Not a whole lot of industry goes on. However, as we talked about in our prior lesson, there are a lot of valuable resources there, but uh, largely the cash crops are the most important moneymaker and contribution to the economy for South Asia. Mostly farmers who live in small villages. So there's not a lot of urbanization goes on. There are some very large cities like in Pakistan and in India, but largely rural, small villages patched here and there. Food production is limited due to small, inefficient farms. So despite good growing conditions, there's not a lot of good structure, overpriced fertilizers, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of agricultural issues that have plagued kind of this area in recent years. The Green Revolution is something that came about not too long ago. So this is basically, to kind of boil it down, it's the introduction of high yield grains. Oops, sorry, typo there. My bad. To increase agricultural output. So this is kind of genetically modified. This is GMOs, basically. Um, so this is trying to kind of overcome some of these issues with genetically modified crops to increase yield. But natural disasters and overpopulation have kind of thwarted this. Three-fourths of India's population are mostly subsistence farmers. That's 75% subsistence farmers. So again, agriculture is the major kind of lifestyle in the Indian subcontinent. There is some industry, like I mentioned, but largely agriculture is what's going on. The textile refers to the making of clothing, fabrics for other materials, so on and so forth. Due to those cotton fields, cotton is one of the cash crops there. Irrigation problems and lack of modernized farming tools lead to low crop yields in certain areas, underpaid workers, so on and so forth. India's Hindus consider the cattle sacred, so they basically use all the parts of the cow, uh, so including its dung, because they consider the cow to be a deity, to be godlike. Okay, agricultural development has helped make India self-sufficient in food production. So despite some of the agricultural issues that they faced, um, they are largely self sufficient. So they don't have to really rely. They don't have to get a bunch of food trucks brought in to help the starving people. So they're even though there's a lot of poverty in India, they are largely self sufficient. Um, so people you know most people grow their own stuff, but mechanized tools have led to less employment for the people. So as more and more modern machinery comes about, these kind of subsistence farms are slowly going by the wayside. So that may become more and more of an issue in the future. Soil erosion and deforestation are still major problems in certain parts of India due to over farming, not using, not recycling the soil, so on and so forth. Let's see here. Resources and industry. Colonialism slowed down industrialization of South Asia. So again, colonial period refers to when those European powers came over and kind of divided up the region. One of the major things that was or is and was produced is called calico, which is fine cotton fabric with colorful patterns. Britain banned imports of these calicos and caused an economic decline in India. So this was one of the major things that you know India was producing, and Great Britain really really hurt their economy by banning the importation of these calicos. Civil War in America in the 1860s caused a reduction in cotton from American colonies, so Great Britain got cotton from India. The Civil War was over, and they went back to getting cotton from new United States of America, led to famine in India for 35 years. So basically, boiling that down, during the American Civil War, agriculture, as you know, in the South, cotton is very suitable for growing cotton. And during the Civil War, Great Britain needs the cotton for its textile industry, so they stopped buying cotton from America, and they were buying it from India. However, after the Civil War, they go back to buying it from um, America again, and then India's kind of out of luck, and a lot of people lost jobs, and there was famine. It was a terrible situation. Most efforts go to feeding South Asia's large population instead of building industry. So there's over 1 billion people that live in the Indian subcontinent, and most of the agriculture efforts really go to feeding those people. So they have different priorities. Then it's kind of hard for people to understand that sometimes. This whole idea of subsistence farming, it's really just to grow enough for the people to survive. It's not necessarily about, building a wealthy nation, so on and so forth. Uh, Cities have developed iron, steel, cotton, cloth, and textile industries in certain areas. Some of the minerals in India include iron ore, bauxite, coal, petroleum, uranium, hydroelectricity. Most industry was owned by the government in India and was ineffective. Slowly, however, it's become privatized. Foreign investors are getting involved, boosting the economy of India. Environment. There are some definitely environmental issues that have plagued this region. 70% of the water is actually polluted due to poor regulation of industry. So this development of kind of these new factories and textile industries and so on and so forth are they're not being regulated, and so they're dumping a lot of pollutants into the water, including the Ganges River and all that. So that's a big problem. Not clean drinking water leads to disease, so on and so forth. Deforestation has been a problem. In certain areas trying to get timber, and these animal sanctuaries, like the Bengal tiger, so on and so forth, are now very, very endangered. Population growth. Again, there's so many people being born here, but the problem is that this is leading to some other problems, and high infant mortality rates, low life expectancy due to the prevalence of disease, or, high crime, high unemployment. Population growth is out of control due to lack of education. Rural areas stay disconnected. Farmers need more kids to work fields. Low literacy rates. So that is there's definitely a big disconnect from rural and urban areas. Um, do maybe two more slides here, and then we'll do the rest tomorrow. Talk a little bit about the human geography here. Again, India is the largest country in South Asia. India is culturally complex. It's the most populous democracy. So they are technically a democracy. That is their government. I don't think their democratic index is that high, but they have worked with their democracy. They have 25 states divided along ethnic lines. So again, that kind of goes back to that caste system. I think that's actually a pretty good place to stop for this lesson.